Hey John, how's it going, bud? Right, so I've just pulled Tiger up into the V1, and just to answer your question, I know you're a little confused about when we're hitting a driver, should we be hitting up on it, should we be trying to hit up on it, or just like the rest of our swings with the irons, should we still be trying to hit down on it? And there's a few pieces to the puzzle. The best way to explain it is the fact that the ball position is further forward in your stance, right? It's more underneath your left shoulder. So the further forward you move the ball, obviously, the more difficult it's going to be to get that shaft leaning forward at impact so that you're hitting down on it, right? But you can clearly see here that just before impact, or at impact here, I mean that shaft is still leaning forward, right? So the best player of our generation still has slight forward shaft lean at impact, okay, which means his club head is still, it's only very, very slight, okay. He hasn't got as much forward shaft lean as his other clubs because obviously the ball position is underneath his left shoulder, all right. If he was hitting a short shot, his ball position would be more sort of back here in the middle. Mid iron would be, 5-6 iron would be maybe here, a 3 iron might be here, driver is here, right? So that is going to stop you from hitting down too much, right? There isn't going to be as much forward shaft lean. But you can clearly see the weight on his left side, and that shaft is still leaning forward. Now, the best way to explain it, most people are going to say, well, if I'm hitting down with a driver, isn't it going to go too low? Well, not if you're teeing the ball up correctly. Now, the best way to explain it is if you have the ball up on a high tee and you hit the ball with the top of the club face, meaning maybe half an inch above the sweet spot, then that's actually going to increase your vertical launch, right? So if you hit it off the top of the face, the ball's going to launch somewhere like this, right? So let's say you got maybe 10 degrees aloft. So you hit it at the top of the face, which is above the sweet spot, maybe half an inch above the sweet spot. You're going to increase your vertical launch because it adds loft to the impact conditions, right? So if you tee it up, it's going to launch high. If you tee the ball low, and at impact you're hitting the ball low on the face. So let's say half an inch below the sweet spot, then obviously it's going to launch a little bit more on this angle, right? So understand how you tee it up, and then you can see how that affects his launch angle. Now, another thing I want you to understand is even when he's hitting a driver, okay, he's not reaching the full length, the full radius of his swing until after impact. So you look at this angle between his left arm and the shaft. I mean, now that's straight. At impact, that isn't quite. I mean, the hands are still leading the club head a little bit. His arms are pretty much fully extended, but that club head doesn't reach full radius until it gets to about there. Okay, so that's an important part of the puzzle as well. So hands are always leading the club head, all right, and he's come down and he's actually got his hand. I know the camera angle's a little off for coming at it. The camera angle should be coming in from more this angle instead of where we're coming in at it from. But his hands are still leading. His hands look as though they're actually slightly past his left shoulder. So, I mean, being able to get your hands down past your left shoulder is always going to lead to forward shaft lean. All right, so little lesson there from the best in the business. The last thing we want to try and be doing is trying to lift this ball up. All right, that's just going to lead to a flick. Okay, the club head's going to start flicking past your hands, and then we're not going to achieve these impact dynamics that we're after, right? Weight forward, hands forward, shaft forward. All right, now when I look at your swing, okay, and we compare you, let me just pull your swing up here. I can find it here. So, if we stop Tiger there, right, and understand that that's when he reaches his full radius, okay, then if we look at your move just after impact, there, you can see how, number one, the club head has gone way past where it should have done, right, and we've actually reached our full radius somewhere kind of around here, right, kind of through the shot. But you can see through the shot just how much that club head has outraced your hands. Now, if we pull another swing up by Tiger, let's compare you so you're both hitting an iron. But it's pretty much the same deal. If you look at just after impact, right, it's only until just after impact that the left shoulder is the center of the circle, remember, right? It's the center of your swing. So your left arm and the shaft shouldn't reach that full radius until after impact. Now, we stop you just here. And what I'd like to see is your left arm and the club more in this position. Whereas you can see your club head has outraced your hands. So we've got to look at reasons why it's happening, right? And we know that how we move our body kind of dictates the whip cracking action with our hands and wrists, right? I mean, yeah, it's all controlled with our hands and wrists here. You can see through impact and still after impact, he's still kind of got this bent right wrist, whereas after impact, even there just after impact, you've completely thrown your right wrist at it. Okay, which is obviously gonna get that club head moving a little bit too fast through the shot. It's also going to close the club face. All right. So once you start understanding what's going on here with your hands and the handle, you can then start to kind of build up a relationship to your misses on the golf course. So what I'm looking for is a better position here with your left arm and the shaft down here. All right. So, like I say, how we do that isn't through a throwing action with your right hand. You can see there how there's a lot of release with that right hand. All right. Now, obviously, by the time we come down to impact, the club head has to release. Of course, it does. Right. I'm not saying never release the club head. The club head has to release, but we don't do it with our right hand. Okay. We can focus on all of this with our lead hand, with our left hand. Now, if you look at where your left hand is there compared to where Tiger is there, you can clearly see how this left hand just hasn't rotated as much as yours, right? It looks like your left hand's the back of your left hand's kind of pointing over there a little bit, back of his left hand's kind of facing the target a little bit more, right? So that's going to be through this right hand releasing the club head a little bit too much, right? So it's very active with the right hand. So I just want you to start focusing on your left hand releasing the club head rather than your right hand. Let's try and make this right hand and right arm a little bit more passive, right? So when you're here, we've just got to focus on, yes, the club's going to release. So I want you to feel as though you're bowing your left wrist, but also it's also obviously down cocking. If we're cocking our wrist going back here, or hinging our wrist, by the time we're at impact, we must have released that hinge, right? Release, down cocked our left wrist is another way to think about it. So yes, we want that, but I want you to control it with your left wrist rather than your right wrist. Okay, I want that position. Now, the way we're going to work on that is obviously through how we move our body, right? And what I picked up earlier, just watching your swing again, was there's not enough extension with your body coming through. All right, so we want three things when we're moving, when we're swinging. We want to tilt, we want to turn, and we want to extend. Right, tilting, turning, and extending. Now I see you tilting, I see you turning, but I don't see much extension. Now let me explain that a little bit. Watch Tiger's line through his hips, and then watch his belt line just after the shot. Alright, so you can clearly see there his belt line has moved a lot higher than where he started. Now, when we watch your belt line, we watch you sort of after impact here, your belt line is still very, very close to where you started. Alright, so in a nutshell, the way that you've got to think about it is I want your hips moving forward but also upward. Alright, I want your hips going, I want you to feel coming down as though your hips, your belt buckle is moving forward and up that way. Alright, now you can see there just how high his hips have got, and this obviously then extends his body. And because your hips are so low, you know, I don't see as much extension going on. Alright, now a great way to explain it would be through a drill, through an exercise, and I'm just going to stop Tiger there. Alright, and I've got another guy that I'm working with up at Stonebridge called Dennis. He's really into it, and what I've got him doing is a drill where we're just focusing a lot on what his hips are doing. Right? So think about what I just said. I want your hips moving forward and I want them moving up. And if we just start in this position, right, and then practice moving your hips forward and up, so you're going from a setup position, a static position, and just moving your hips forward and up, you can see straight away what that does to your hands and arms, but it's also going to help you with the feeling in your wrists, right? Your wrists are going to want to feel it. Your left wrist is going to feel a little bit bowed, so you're always feeling that forward shaft lean. Your right wrist is going to be bent, right? So you're feeling that forward shaft lean. So if we stop him, say there, right? And if he hit a ball in, you know, if he could come down and get into that position, kind of through impact with that forward shaft lean, right? Just like you see Tiger there, right? That forward shaft lean, and then hold on to it as long as you can. Don't forget this clubhead is always going to be swinging, right? Clubhead's moving the most. The clubhead's moving the fastest, right? It's always going to try and outrace your hands. Really, the answer really isn't releasing the clubhead or throwing the clubhead, which is what we've always been taught. You know, release the clubhead with your right hand. The answer is really controlling it. All right, the answer is controlling it. So you can see there, and just after impact here, now he's got that full radius. But to feel that, okay, especially when most people release this clubhead too soon, like you do, to feel what Tiger's doing there, a great sensation is to obviously overemphasize it, kind of exaggerate it, right? We're isolating exactly what we want to do, which is the opposite of what most people do through the shot, right? We're here, we're practicing this angle. Most people at impact have their left arm here and the shaft like that, just like where we've got you. What is your swing? Let me get your swing back up. There. So you can see through impact there's a lot of kind of release through here. So we can see you're at that angle, whereas if we practice this drill, which we've got Dennis doing, right, I think that would be an excellent drill for you to be getting on with. Alright, John, good stuff, mate. Practice that drill. I hope you understand a little bit more about hitting up on a driver, or not hitting up on a driver, should I say. because we don't want two different swing thoughts. We only want one swing thought, and then we just build that into a whole action, whether you're hitting a little pitch shot, whether you're hitting a driver. All right, mate, good stuff. Please let me know how you're getting on.